What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the David F. Haas podcast. In this podcast, I sit down with my new buddy, Ian France. He's a former police officer who moved into the world of business and then eventually went into the leadership and sales field. And now he's going to travel the world and spread his message. We talk about sobriety, clarity, purpose, passion, spirituality, and unconditional love. It's a great conversation. I hope you really enjoy the show with Ian France. So, Ian, we just met. But this is what I love about doing the podcast, is because like someone will reach out to me and they'll be like, hey, been seeing this. I'm like, you want to come on my podcast?
Absolutely.
It's a great way to get to know people.
Of course it is.
Extended conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so anyways, I don't know too much about you just from what we kind of like talked about here, but I think what drew me to like immediately inviting you to the podcast is that you had mentioned that you recently quit drinking and you're doing a lot of stuff with like helping other people, and so anytime I see someone that's doing that kind of thing, because that's kind of for me is like what I'm dedicated to, is just like helping other people. Sure, is there business models in there and all that? Of course there is, but back in the day, my business models were like make money. Yeah. And now my business models are, okay, let's make some money, but let's also help people at the same time. Right. And so basically that's what I was seeing in you. And I was like, hey, let's get on the podcast and have a conversation. So nice. Yeah, you have a pretty interesting story. Why don't you give us the Coles notes quickly, and then we'll dive into like each kind of part.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you noticing them in regards to, the fact that it is about service. As you said so many things before, it's all about business and money and trying to provide for the family. But then you realize that you're able to shift, and if you actually put more focus on helping people, the money comes. It's a non-issue. But as far as my journey, I mean, really, it's
sorry, I'll just get you to pull that mic a little closer to you.
Born and raised in Windsor. As far as my journey, I'm just born and raised in Windsor. I grew up on the West End. Always wanted to be a police officer, and I got on Windsor Police at 22 years old. And unfortunately, I ended up getting a career-ending back injury. And my options were stay at the accident reporting center on Jefferson for 20 more years, where everybody was either hurt or going through their own health issues. And it was very toxic, so it really wasn't what I wanted anymore. So I just kind of moved on and gave myself 5 years to be in a management position. And with 21 days left, I started managing Blackburn Radio in sales and marketing. We've had businesses, nutrition stores. We've had some pubs on the West End. And, the inflatable movie screens that you see in this area, we brought those here back in 2007. So it always had our hands in something, build it up for a few years and then sell it. Had some very good home runs, but also, as most business people, a lot more strikeouts. And it really builds and develops who you are. I think that the failures are more important than the wins.
Yeah. And I think you're probably at a point in your life now that is like, you're starting to like hone in on like what it is you really kind of want, that's what I think. In like my younger days, it was just like I would do anything as long as it resulted in making more money. Right. And so because of that, I would find that I would get pulled into a lot of directions. Anywhere there was money, kind of like sounds like a little bit like your journey a little bit. It's like, oh, we can make some money doing inflatable things. Oh, let's go do that. And especially once you get a little bit of money too, then you start saying yes to these like little tiny opportunities. But what I found is that it kind of pulls your attention and focus in a bunch of different directions. And so when you get to probably like the stage in life that you're at, similar to me, you start saying like, well, what do I really want to do? Right. Because the big realization I had recently was like, I can have whatever I want. And so it's like, you better be careful what you ask for. Exactly. And so now you're kind of like, you were just talking about like, selling your house and buying an RV or a fifth wheel or whatever that is. And so it's like, so is that like, where do you see the next 20 years kind of going?
Basically we're very, we're minimalist people, and when I say minimalist, I'm not going to go live in a cardboard box, mind you. We bought ourselves a nice traveling vehicle, but our plan is to launch this Wanderwell tour. And basically, my wife edited this. She's a naturopath, integrative naturopath, as well as a wedding officiant. So she's blended these holistic weddings, and she's doing pop-up weddings across the country. And we're going to do it at mountains and lakes and forests and scenic areas, and also jump on board with some festivals that, some organizations that might have festivals across the country as well, and do these quick little pop-up weddings where she can do 6 of them at a time. At the same time, I'll be able to market in advance and go in and do my keynote speaking and some of my trainings on leadership and holistic well-being and things like that.
Right on.
If we can take it on the road, so be it. We can do it in Canada and the US. We've got businesses in both. So it's nice to be able to have that freedom and not just wake up in the same place. You know, to have the mindset where we have to live in the same place, go to the same job, do the same thing over and over. I recognize the importance of that in society as a whole, but that never really was my path in life.
Yeah, you know, and my wife and I go back and forth about like leaving. Like we constantly think like, let's just go move to Florida where it's warmer and,
Right.
and just enjoy the weather more, and you
Right.
know, not go into this cycle. But then what always gets me hung up is like the family thing,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's like, and not even that like but I think. I say that not even that we're this insanely tight family, but like we'll notice like just in like a week, it's like, and because we have small kids too,
Yeah.
you know, we're at my in-laws house, we're at my aunt and uncle's house, we're at her aunt and uncle's house. And so it's
Right.
like over a course of a week, we might visit like, you know, like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if we moved to Florida, we would have nobody.
Yeah.
And so it'd just be us. And so that is always the thing that kind of like keeps me grounded. But I think maybe as you get older.
Well, having that support system around you is incredibly important.
Yeah.
We all need that, and we all lean towards that. But in the end, I've always told my daughter, and we are in a different stage. All our kids are in their mid-20s.
Yeah, right.
And they're on their way out, and they're moving forward. And I always told my daughter, you know, you didn't choose to live here. My parents chose to live here, and I'm still here, but that doesn't mean that I'm staying. You can always come back. I'm 24 hours away any moment. If anything ever happens, I can jump on a flight.
Yeah.
I've been traveling for the last 10 years for work on these seminar circuits.
Yeah.
So travel is a non-issue for me. And the world is much bigger than just Windsor, Essex County.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that is a real bubble that a lot of us get stuck in, where there is a lot to learn. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot more out there. And it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily forget where you came from. But at the same time, take that work ethic. There's just a lot more progressive. There's a lot more open-minded areas that we can take our thoughts and our approach and our strategies to.
Yeah. So, what are you doing at your keynotes? Like, what is your main topic?
The human side of business.
Oh, okay,
it's called.
nice.
Yeah. So back when I was with Blackburn, I started doing an annual presentation to the 4th year sales at Odette School of Business. They called me in, and I would do it on the human side of business. And really, where it spawned from was not only what I went through with my injury and realizing that you're just a number and that nobody really gives a shit about you.
Yeah.
To then also moving forward, I had a sales team that I'm managing, and one of the young ladies that was on my team came in to break down and tell me that she had cancer.
Oh, shit.
And that they were telling her that she had to cancel her wedding and different things like that. Well, at that moment, not only do I now have to comfort this person whom I care about, obviously it's one of my employees, she's a human being, but I now have to keep the team motivated because I have to answer to the bosses that, with all due respect, they don't care who's sick and who's what. They just need the bottom line, right?
Yep.
So I really started to realize that, you know, life wasn't just about spreadsheets. It wasn't just about boardrooms and crunching numbers, that everything really comes down to your people. And if you have a horrible culture, it just continues to snowball and get worse.
Yeah, you know, and one of the things I've talked about on this podcast over and over again is, you know, people talk about building culture and like, you know, the culture that I have out there at Lungo Vita, you know, we have about 15, maybe 18 staff, you know, in high season, and it's just like it just I think it's just a result of who I became as a person. And so like, because I have set the intention to like live a life of integrity and be, you know, an honest person, that just trickles down to my whole entire team. And I'm really only dealing with 2 of my employees, which is my COO and my general manager.
Right.
Everyone else is below them and they're dealing with all of them. Right. And, but we get complimented all the time on how great our staff is. And so, you know, what I've always said, and I would like to get your point on it, is basically, like, I think that being a good leader is a result of like you being just a good person from within, right? Yes. And so if you solve everything that's going on from within, then naturally you'll become like more caring, more loving, right? And your staff and your employees will notice that.
Absolutely.
And then there's not really any tactics that you need to be a good leader. You just focus on becoming a good person yourself, and the good leadership just kind of comes along with it. Yeah. So what do you think? Because you're talking about human side and and so like maybe there are tactics that I'm just not aware of.
No, I agree completely. It really isn't that difficult. It's not rocket science. It's, you know, treat people well and they're going to treat you well in return. More often than not. Let's face it, there are people that are out there that are not. But when you can build a culture where you allow input, you allow candor, you allow people to invest their thoughts into a project or a strategy. In the end, as the leader and as the manager, you have final say. But to be able to allow your people to have input and take ownership is a massive thing. There's a difference between leading and managing somebody.
Yeah, right.
You know, and managers tell people what to do. Leaders involve them and try to grow it from there and delegate and give them responsibility.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where I basically feel is like my role is just to make my two, top people the best versions of themselves. And a lot of times it has nothing to do at all with managing the business.
Right.
So maybe they're having problems with an employee, and then, I will basically say, okay, well, let's walk through what's going on inside of you that is creating this trigger so that they can begin to transcend, that button that's being pushed in them.
Yeah.
And, so my focus is really just making them better people. And as a result, they become better employees for me.
Absolutely.
So, which I think is just like, it's funny because people like to put labels on things, right? And so leadership in general is we'll call it a label, and it's a very effective label because people are like, oh, we need leadership, and it's an easy thing to sell. I just recently heard of a collaboration coach.
Oh, okay.
And so what essentially what these collaboration coaches do is they sit in on like meetings with customers or whatever, and they just sit back and take notes, and then they give you feedback on how you responded and how you interacted with your staff and with your customers. And I'm like, I just thought it was funny because it was just a good label that someone had given to something, and they were charging like $80,000 for 6 months or something like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no question, and we even have a portion of that, and we run it through Six Sigma strategies and philosophies. And basically we have a section in it's called absolute accountability.
Okay.
And it's all for C-suite executives and people. Everything that happens at a company is the person at the top's fault.
Yeah. No.
Whether from the guy at the bottom all the way to the top, you have layers of responsibility and accountability in a culture that you're already talking about, that you're developing. Now that's going to pass on through your upper management down to your people, and then that's going to pass on to your customers. But far too often what we see is so many companies, they train till they're blue in the face, and then somebody becomes a manager and they stop training them. So now what you have is an entire team of equally trained people that have knowledge in the same level, and only thing separating them is a title. And then you start getting cultural, you start getting toxicity and problems and drama in there. And really they need to learn how to further advance management. And management isn't about just driving revenue and cutting expenses. How can we make people more productive? How can we make people more supported? And that's really, what we try to focus on.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's not just about the boardroom either. That's where we start bringing in our holistic and our nutrition and fitness.
Yeah.
As you mentioned earlier when we were talking, it all starts with what we're consuming. And it's so mind-blowing to realize that, and to come to that realization that if you can get your nutrition and eating properly, your body cleanses out, your mind clears up, the clarity is at a level that I've never known before. When we talked about quitting alcohol, I quit March 6th of this year, man. And it was just, I woke up sick and tired of waking up sick and tired. And I saw no health advantages to it. There was no benefit to it. It brought me down. It ate up a day or two of my life. The clarity wasn't there, and I'm not here to preach to anybody. They can do what they want. But I mean, we come from industries, bars and festivals and things where we made a living off of alcohol. It is what it is. But people used to make money off of smoking. People used to make money off a lot of things.
I have this this calling or this urge to help people that want to get sober, that don't feel like they want to go to AA and be a part of that. Not that I think AA is great, but just they just feel like that's not for them. And so I have this idea of creating this community of sober. It's called Sober Achiever. And I bought the .com Sober Achiever.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. And so anyways, but it's almost like it's the karmic debt I have to repay for getting all those kids drunk back at Treehouse for all those years, right?
Exactly.
But let me ask you this, because this is we all hear the very simple talking points about quitting drinking, and you just went through them, and they are all 100% legit. You're clearer, you have more energy, you're more focused, you're more productive. I remember I got onto quitting drinking by following just quitting for short periods of time. I would do dry January. I wouldn't drink for the month of January. And in that month, I was like, I would get more done in that month than I would in an entire year.
Yes.
Right. And I was like, so that was what eventually led to me to like, hey, this is probably something that needs to stop for good. And being in the bar business too was difficult because, you know, I was there 5 nights a week, and then it's like, you know, if someone like you would come in and like, hey, let's have a beer, and then so then you would leave, and then the next
someone
guy
else would come in.
And so, you know, before you know it, you're 10 beers deep every night, and it's just like, it was just hard to get anything done, you know? But I was like also the person that I never had any alcohol at my house. It was just like, I wasn't like this constantly drinking, but it was just a very social thing. And the recognition I got was that, that alcohol was allowing me to be my true self, which was allowing me to be that social person. Whereas if I didn't have it, I was like this very serious kind of like person. Right. And so that was like the aha. But I remember specifically, and I don't want to give it away, but like as in the first couple of months of quitting drinking, the first month you're kind of like in this like weird, like, how am I going to live my life? How am I going to go to parties? How am I going to, you know, and you start noticing like everything that is going to shift. Like, and you're not really ever fully prepared for that. It's like, you know, it's going to change. But then you like, all of a sudden it's like, you're like, you know, getting invited out for dinner with all your buddies and they're all drinking. Or you go to a Tigers game and you're like, oh, fuck, all I used to do when I came to a Tigers game was get drunk. And so you start to realize like all of these things that are like, oh, these things that I used to do are going to be completely different. And so that was like, that's the first month I would say is like this like just settling into this new version of what your life is going to look like. But then right around the 3-month mark, I started having some like major like high, like, and I was always having them when I was mopping the floor at Treehouse for some reason. And I think because it was very meditative, you know? And so I'd be mopping the floor and I just like just emotions that had been like suppressed for so long, just coming to the surface, things that I hadn't thought about in years, just flowing through me. And then also like, I guess for me, it was like, I think it was good and bad, but it was like, it was the feeling of like, what the fuck had I been doing with my life this whole entire time? You know, and then that was like the real and it's good because you're like, oh, I got my power back. But it's also like, fuck. I can't believe that I wasted the last 20 years of my life. And so I'm wondering if you had like those moments of like, holy fuck, or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, when you make a decision to do something like that we are so conditioned growing up in this society that alcohol is everything. There's pictures of me when I'm 5 holding a stubby beer bottle or can of Coors Light or something, like, just, it was always a part of your life, you know? And so it just became a normal thing to go for a couple beer and a couple drinks and hang out with people. And then it just got to a point, my wife and I knew each other for about 12 years and we got together 3 years ago. And she very rarely drank. So it made it easy for me to ease off it. We went to Cuba. Her dad had passed away. We had a trip to Belize. We canceled and we just packed a bag, jumped on a plane and went to Cuba to get some heat and relax. And we were down there and I was having drinks and eating like normal. And it just wasn't for me anymore. Literally, we came back and I just quit cold turkey. Just quit. But when you think about the clarity, there was a lot of, growing up, I felt a lot of, alcohol brought a lot of negativity into my life, let's just say, through various people and things like that. And it caused me to view my life in a totally different way. Once I quit and I hit that 3-4 month mark and I started getting this clarity and my meditation started becoming a lot deeper and more vivid, I was starting to see parts of my life that had completely been blocked out. Like something as ridiculous. And I got all emotional. I came out of my meditation emotional as can be. And it was something as simple as me sitting on the couch as a young child and my baby sister sitting next to me and feeling that energy of love at that moment, feeling it now this year that I had suppressed and not felt my entire life. It was gone. But now it just seems like, there's your holy fuck. Like what? Like, what am I? But more and more of those memories come back. And where I may have had negative thoughts of somebody because of alcohol, I now realize that that wasn't the case with them. And it was just something that I had. You really can reinvent your whole life. Like you can realign your whole timeline based on your perception. And perspective.
Like, and what you're connecting to there. And see, like that is, I think, this is the side of like spiritual growth, and that I think a lot of people come into spiritual growth because they have problems. They want to break free from those problems. And yes, it is necessary, right, to do that. Like like a recognition, like alcohol, for example, is a way to not feel something, right? Or to feel
Escapism,
something, right? And so it's like, if you're using alcohol to feel happy, that means that you're not happy from within, right? Or if you're using alcohol to not feel angry, then it's like, well, why are you angry in the first place, right? And so people come into spiritual growth because they've recognized that whatever they've been doing their whole entire life, whether it's chasing money or women or the next high, is no longer working for them, right? And so when you solve that, all of that stuff that you have shoved down your whole entire life and protected yourself from feeling, usually the bad stuff in the beginning, it begins to boil to the surface. And so then you have to start dealing with all of that pain that you were using alcohol to not deal with, right? Then once you actually deal with it, though, then you start to get connected to the good. Yes. Because when you were blocking out all that bad, you were also blocking out all the good. And so like that moment that you described where you're sitting next to your baby sister, and you could even, like, I feel it with you right now. It's like the love that you had without anything being said between you two is so powerful that if we continue to remain in the field that we are in right now, we won't be able to finish this podcast. We'll both be crying.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so then when you connect to that, it's like, that is what life is all about.
Yes, it is.
All this other bullshit, money, success, whatever, partying, yachts, it all means nothing, on when you compare it to the power that you feel when you connect to unconditional love, right? And so, but you can't really sell that, no, because you have to experience it. It's like you have to actually, people have to come with a problem so that they can get there, right? And so I've always said that pain is your portal, right? And so it's like, but they don't really realize what the portal is to, but the portal is to that feeling of love. And then when you start being able to connect to that, because you've been blocking it your whole life, and so when, I'm not saying you, everybody, and so when you start to connect to that, you start to see it everywhere.
Yes.
Right. You see it in the employee that pisses you off. You see it. You have acceptance for everyone. You have understanding for everyone, and you're just like a completely different person. So, I mean, you're there.
Yeah, it's an exciting thing to have, and to be able to discover that, and to realize that the small things that we used to sweat, or the things we found value in, are meaningless. Yeah. Even the whole, the world is always trying to. We're getting caught up in everything that's going on around the world, but you can't even cut your front lawn. Yeah. Like, if it's not on my front porch anymore, I just don't put any energy towards it. Yeah. I try to put energy towards those that are in my life by delivering what I've experienced in my journey. And from them, it should ripple out to a couple more people. 100%. And then from them, it should ripple out to more people. Jumping on social media and thinking we're going to solve something that's going on another part of the planet. No, man, figure your own shit out and make the world better from your own stance. And it'll ripple out. It's a compound effect.
100%. Hawkins used to say, he's like, I let the angry people of the world do all the protesting and the fighting, and and it's true, because it's like when you really step away from all of that, it's like you just see it all as so pointless, because you recognize that we're part of something like so much bigger than bigger. These little tiny things that are happening right now. While they're terrible, it's just like you just recognize that it's all going to resolve.
Absolutely,
it all work out, and the world will go on, and
and that's a powerful mindset to be in. To know that, and to not be caught up in the 3D or caught up in all the stuff that they just inundate us with every day, with the information and the negativity and the toxicity. And, if you can shut that out. I literally was off social media and news for 13 months. I came back in August of this year because we were launching our new businesses. And I didn't watch the news. I was off social media, and it was the most peaceful growth period I've ever had in my life.
And a lot of people think like how do you ever do that? It's like, anything that's really important that's happening, you're going to hear about.
You're going to hear about it. Yeah.
It's like I sail with this guy Len, and he's addicted to CNN, and so I'm like, I know, like I'll get my news from Len. Exactly. If something really bad's happening, he's going to tell me about it.
Let you know. Exactly. Yeah.
So but no, that's great, and the path all sounds like amazing, and I'm all for connecting with more people that don't drink. And not that I think that, again, I don't think drinking is, all my friends they still drink, but
yes, they do.
There is a sense of when you meet someone that doesn't drink, there's a sense of Oh yeah, like
you get it. And there are a lot of high achievers, people that are busy and doing things, don't have time to be out at the bars and hungover and losing half a day. And I've done it. I rocked it for 50 years. May I now take all of that wisdom for the next 50 and not let it get clouded and everything like that. Yeah. That's really the thing. It isn't about judgment. I'm not here telling people what to do, but it just makes sense that, it's poison.
Yeah. Well, let me ask. So because the podcast, everything I do is kind of like educational. And so it's like, well, if someone's listening to this and they're like, oh, maybe I should start considering not drinking, what would you think would be the first kind of like advice you would give them? Like what would be the motivation, advice, whatever? I don't know.
The health benefits alone.
Yeah.
I mean, even what I just feel in the inflammation in my joints, and I'm all about anti-aging. Yeah. Everything now is about anti-aging, mobility, and
you follow Brian Johnson?
And yes. Yeah. And we're very conscious of what we put into our body.
Yep.
Even when it comes down to our food, people will say that it's too expensive to eat healthy. Mm. So they'll go to Costco or they'll go to places that are selling garbage food. Mm. And it's mass produced for the masses. It's not, you should be eating, what you can eat is not the same as what I can eat or digest. Our bodies need different things. Yep. And if people would realize that they spend a little bit extra on higher quality food, they have to eat less and they don't have to worry about the fillers and the garbage that they're doing. When it comes to alcohol, I'm of a different bird. I just believe that if you want to quit something, you'll do it. If you want to keep doing it, you'll find an excuse.
Of course.
And if we look around, there's never been one positive thing from alcohol. I mean, positive comes from us. We've made money off it.
Yeah,
okay.
Right,
let's just say that.
Yeah.
It's done well for our families. But when it really comes down to it, it causes fog. Our clarity's gone. It's diminishing our motor skills. You don't see people out getting into fights and domestic violence that are out, whether they're out smoking weed or doing whatever else they're doing. Alcohol has been legalized and taxed, and it's a way of, it manages people.
100%.
It manages people, and they're giving us, of all the different drugs, of all the different substances that they could provide us, all the ones that open our mind and expand our thoughts, they've labeled illegal.
Yeah.
And then the one that causes the most damage and illness, they're pumping it like crazy.
Yeah.
And
I think the first thing you said too is like, is this the health benefits? It's like, just by not drinking, you've probably prolonged your life by like 10 years.
I agree.
Yeah. Like,
wholeheartedly.
For sure. Like,
wholeheartedly.
It's like 100%. And this is like, if you're having the occasional drink here or there, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But if you're drinking the way you and I used to drink, I would guess, which was, like I would, any given day, it could be like 8, 10 beers.
Well, for me, alcohol was there to get it drunk.
Yes.
I wasn't going to have one or two to just have a social drink.
Yeah, no.
It was there to get a buzz and to escape. It's a form of escapism.
Yeah.
End of story.
And the other thing is that I'm guessing you're noticing this too, and especially because your wife doesn't drink that much, is you think when you're drinking that there's no one in the world that doesn't drink.
Yes.
Like I remember being shocked back in the day. I met this guy that didn't drink, and I was like, "What? You don't drink?"
Yeah.
And now I meet people all the time that don't drink.
There are so many people not drinking. Yeah. And it just, and again, it's not, I'm not preaching, but it just gets to a point where I'm on a different path. The people that I'm having conversations with are at a higher level. I'm not talking about drama that's going on in the world. We're talking about business. We're talking about family. We're talking about consciousness. We're talking about wellness. Things that are going to level us up, whether it be personal or professional. Those are the conversations I want to have.
Yes.
I don't give a shit about, I don't watch sports anymore. I don't even watch sports anymore. I've given up the distraction of sports. And that is a major distraction that's sitting out there, just.
Like, and it's funny because
the Romans.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, you've done a lot of like, because you all the things that you're talking about are all realizations that I've come to. And, the sport thing is, and I was never a big sport fan, but I recognize the distraction in it all, and it's like, it's just like, I don't want to be a part of that. No. And as fun as it is to watch a football game, and the Lions are doing great. And it's like fun to watch. It's just like, I'm like, I just want to be spending my time doing like, more productive stuff. Now,
yes.
I think there is also there is a stepping back into a place of like play where
of course.
You're not everything that you do has to be spent like with some sort of purpose to get ahead or to be better or whatever. And so I've had to notice myself, allowing myself to be in that space of play, you know, because especially when you start doing this work, right, you can become like a very serious person, or people will perceive you as a serious, even though you might not be. They'll perceive you as serious because you're always talking about like, you know, productivity and becoming the best version of yourself and sobriety, and people will think like, what the hell? So I've noticed that I've had to like allow myself to like dial it back in like family situations and stuff, and just have fun. You know, just like let's talk about the weather or what Trump said or whatever, and like laugh about it. You know, as opposed to like everything has to have this greater meaning, and because you would be like no one will invite you anymore.
It's funny you say that, because my daughter, God bless her, she's put me in check so many times as they get older, and they have a conversation with you. And recently I was talking to them about investments and different things like that. And I'm always about improvement, never settling. Yeah. You know, I find complacency to be the biggest weakness that anybody can have. But she made a great comment, and she goes, just because people don't want to follow along what you're doing, maybe they're happy where they're at. Yeah. Some people are happy, and I'm like, you're absolutely right. People are happy where they're at. This isn't for people who are happy where they're at. It's for people that are constantly looking to become better or level up or just do something different. They don't know where to go. We are surrounded so many times in our lives by naysayers, and most of those naysayers have never tried what you're even discussing with them. I don't care if it's investment or if it's starting a business, or, you know, we're not going to take marriage counseling from somebody that's been through 5 weddings. Yeah. I'm not going to take weight loss programs from somebody that's obese. Yes. I'm not going to take financial information from somebody that's broke and living on the streets. Like there's just the right people that you need to surround yourself with and speak on. And change is so difficult for people. They tend to go to the wrong people. Yeah. They look for change in people that won't change.
Yeah, and I think I'm actually the video we were recording before you came in was about like fulfillment and people constantly seeking fulfillment out there, and I think people mistake what you just said for like chasing like some sort of feeling from within by attaining some sort of thing. But it at some point there's a switch that flips, whereas like you recognize that you can still move forward, but you're still happy with where you're at.
Absolutely. Yeah. The climb is my high. Yeah. Everybody wants to be on top of the mountain in life, but they never want to climb there. Yeah. They look at somebody that's successful and done well, and they must have had this, they have no idea what that individual went through and how many times they fell down that mountain before they got back up. Yeah. And when you have that mindset, I feel, if you're that person that's always seeking to get to the top, you're going to look for a bigger mountain. And maybe that mountain is not about business. Maybe it's about helping others. Sure. It's delivering the message. You know, I talk to my wife all the time about it, where awareness and consciousness, it needs to be delivered in a beginner's fashion. 100%. A lot of people, you can't walk into a room with some people and they're talking about higher self and layers and other beings and things. That's at a much higher level of discussion. When you're trying to make people just self-aware, that they can get to that. They can get to that where they believe in themselves and they believe it, and then you can expand it to understanding consciousness and meditation and really opening your mind. But I think that the whole trend of trying to wake the world to consciousness has been delivered not effectively. They tried to force the whole idea on people instead of letting them ease their way into it. So all I'm trying to do with people nowadays is ease them into it. Here's my journey. Here's where I had my wake up moment. Yep. Here's what I do now. Here's how I meditate. Here's what it's done for me. And if it can help you, it helps you.
What's your meditation practice?
I'll usually do probably, I start usually with about a 10-minute in the morning. Nice. I just do a nice little reset and collect myself.
Like silent, or
I do silent. I do silent, and then I have later in the evening when it goes on, I have a guided with some audio, and I'll put my headphones on, or my wife and I will listen to it together. Nice. And then we have some light therapy in that as well that we do. Yeah. So good. Just anything to really clear myself of the day and to open my mind to what's next. Yeah. Constantly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the present moment that the unknown is revealed, and so but none of us are ever connecting to the present moment. Nope. You know? And so yeah, you want to spend that time, and I've gained so much clarity from like meditation. It's like anytime I'm stuck on anything, it's like I just go to the silence now because the answer just comes so quickly, and I could cycle in my mind for hours, days, weeks, months, years, lifetimes. But the second I get silent and ask for the truth to be revealed, it's like coming instantly, right?
The downloads are there.
Yeah, and it takes some time to get there, but like it happens pretty fast. Like, you know, like it's not like this, you're waiting years to get there. It's like, you know, if you set out a 30-day meditation plan where you're going to meditate for 5 minutes a day, you're going to be gaining some serious clarity in those.
Absolutely.
You know, but it's like people are resistant to it though, because everyone is identified as the mind, right? And which is like the ego. And so they don't want to think that the answers are outside of them. The ego wants to claim ownership over finding the answer. Like, I solved this, right? Yeah. But if the answer came to you from silence, it's like you don't no longer solved it, so you can't claim ownership over it. So I think that's part of the piece of resistance to like actually getting silent is that attachment to self. You know,
I agree. And I mean, I think it's actually arrogant of mankind to believe that we're the end all be all. Like when people can't think beyond our physical being, that's a sad state to be in, I think. Like to believe that this existence is all that we are. Yeah. You know, we are so much more in the collective consciousness. Like people, when they start to, and they can, as you said, it doesn't happen overnight. You know, it's something that the first few times I tried to meditate, it was, did I fall asleep or, you know, did that work? I didn't, you know, but then as I started to get into it, I really, it's just really become a part of our life. And, you know, there's moments once a month that I'll do a deep meditation and I'll come out of these. And I hate using this word, but I'll be good for 2 or 3 weeks where I feel incredibly superior in what my knowledge is and where I'm at. And then I'll go through it again. It's a nice cycle. I love it.
Yeah, hell yeah. With you. You've also done like you were working with Cody Sanchez there, which is like really interesting because I've been following Cody for a long time and just love her whole thing. And you know, you went down like that sales road, which I think if I look back at my entrepreneurial career, to shift out of spirituality here because we're going deep there, but because I'm curious for myself. If I look at my entrepreneurial career, I think the one thing that was missing was sales. Now I say that though but I was a natural salesman without even really realizing it. But I never actually had the intention to sell. If that makes sense, it's like I had this great realization on the golf course. I have a lot of great realizations on the golf course. But so I set the intention this year to break 80, right? And so everything I did was about breaking 80 without me like trying to. It's just like I had the intention I was going to break 80 and then I was practicing, I was doing everything, and then boom, I did it. And I did it 3 or 4 times throughout the year. And then like I went into this period of like just kind of not playing very well, you know, like it just and then all of a sudden like the last few rounds of the year I'm like it just clicked. I'm like there's no more intention. I'm like motherfucker. I had no intention to. Now the next goal was par, but I thought about I'd pull up par, but it feels like par is so far away. Right. You know, like almost like the 80s felt like they were like a fluke, you know, in some ways. And so it's like, so I never took the energy to align with that intention. Right. And the reason I tell this story is because that's the same kind of thing that happened with sales. Like I was selling, but I never actually had the intention to sell. Right. And so now I've been leaning into this intention to actually sell. Right. And like if I look at my business out there at Lungo Vita, it's like I am 100% focused on selling that place out, right? And like all I want out of that place in this moment, right? And being aligned with that and being okay with it also is huge too, because there was a struggle of like money and all this for a long time, but I'm through all that. And now to set the intention with sales, I now recognize that was the number one thing that was missing throughout my whole entire entrepreneur. And the number 2 would be the lack of focus, I think. But they kind of go hand in hand because if you have an intention to sell, then that's your intention. That's all you do. Right. You know? And so probably the lack of intention was why I also got wrapped up in like, lack of focus. And I mean, today's customer, they know you're selling them. They're not, it's not rocket science. They know that you have a product or a service and they know that you're selling them. Now, the thing is that today's customer is very intelligent. They're very knowledgeable on a lot of things because of the internet, and they can go online and AI and chat and everything. Wow. So really what they look for from the salesperson or the representative is to just fill the gap on that 20-30% of information that they need to just validate that this is for them or not for them. Right. And the one thing that I always had my staff do is to really detach themselves
from the outcome. When you talk about intention and all that, so many people get caught up in commission breath, I call it, and salesy, and everything's about sales. And, well, you ready? Just inform them. Yeah. Give it to them and detach. And some of my best closes have been where you know what, Dave? Whether you buy this or not, it's no skin off my back. I'm going to be on a plane. I'm going to be in Florida having a beer and by the time you get home. And people will look at you and go, I really don't care if you buy. In the fact, you know that you do, but that's kind of a little psychological takeaway. But so many people, when you back off and you give them that release valve, you say, you can make a decision in 24 hours. I don't need you to sell right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any one way to sell properly. Like I've bought in things where someone has had a very like loose sales approach where they say, hey, here's my offer. And then they say, you sit on it. And then all they did was send me an email. Yeah. Let me know what you're thinking. You know, let me know this. And then eventually I was like, fine, I'll do it. You know. And so, but then I've also been on calls with people that do like hard closes, you know,
of course.
And they're masters at it. You know, it's just like, you can't get out of it, you know.
And there are hard closes. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we've got the warm up, we've got the agenda statement, you know, we've got the different questioning and situational questioning and gap questioning and solution awareness questions. And you're tying all that in and really listening. Active listening is the biggest thing that anybody can do in sales. Because if you're not paying attention to what that customer needs, you're never going to be able to deliver a solution. And that's all you're doing is just trying to provide. All sales is providing a solution to a problem they have.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
And if you don't have it, don't bullshit them.
Yes.
And don't tell them that you can, because then you just look like an ass.
Yeah, right.
Just own it and say, hey, I can't do that, but I know a guy that can. Yeah. It's just about integrity. It really is.
Yeah, 100%. And I think sales gets a bad name, but it's like if you really have something that can serve someone and help them, then you're actually doing them a disservice by not selling them on on whatever it is that you have to offer. If you really truly believe that what you have can help them.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, if you don't think it can help them, you also have to say that too.
Yeah.
You know, not just getting wrapped up in like, I need this sale. And so that's where we get into this space of like spiritual growth and integrity and all of this, where before I was so removed from that, it was like just all about the money.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like it's you coming at things in like just a completely different way. But you got to be careful of the ego, because it's obsessed with getting, you know, and it wants to win.
Yes.
You know, and so you have to keep it in check, because if not, you get wrapped in that cycle again, right? And it usually cause a bunch of problems. But the one thing I was interested in is like, because you're working with Cody there, I think there's like a new world of like getting people to contact you, and like Hormozi and Cody are kind of doing that. It's like, and you know, like Gary Vee said, like it's like jab, 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 right hook, and then it was like, and Hormozi said it's like, he changed it to like, you just keep giving until they ask.
You got it.
Yeah.
Content.
Yeah, right.
Free content.
Yeah.
That is the whole business model. It's come all, Eric Thomas was doing the same thing, and that's what catapulted him. It's just nonstop content.
Yeah.
And it's, again, it comes down to education versus implementation. Cody can give away the playbook and here's our course, here's what we do. But when people actually go out to implement it, 9 times out of 10, they're going to trip up because they didn't take the time to have somebody that knew what they were doing hold their hand and bring them across. And you can save yourself so much, you know. Some of these courses are $10,000, $50,000, $30,000. The mentorship, you want to mentor with her? She only takes 1 or 2 people a year. It's $100,000.
Yeah.
And
that's actually a steal for her.
And that's a steal. That is a steal to have access to that woman.
Yeah. And you know what? And I think the thing that I recognize, and maybe it's because I'm in the sales world, I guess, in some ways, like with coaching and with selling these corporate retreats out at Lingo Vita. The thing that I realize is that the price has to match your level of customer.
Yes.
Like I recently bought like some like sell out your retreats course from someone who was like $100, never even opened it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
But it's like
those just to see what I want to see what they're selling.
Yeah. I want to see who they're selling, because the ads were good and like I'd seen it over and over. So let me see what this is all about. But because because of at my level of income, $100 is, you know, it's like nothing. It's like it's like going to the store and buying, and not that I'm rich. It's just that
I understand.
$100 is not big of a deal to us.
That's right.
Right. So, but if I would have paid $10,000 for that, you're fucking right. I was going to watch that course.
Absolutely.
Right? You know,
100%.
And so it's like, that's the recognition that I've had now. It's like, it's not even so much about, of course you have to be good to be able to service people, but it's like, let's just say that if I wanted to service high achievers, I can't have my price at $1,000 a month.
Not a chance.
They're not going to take it seriously.
No.
It almost has to be like $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
You know? And so that was like a big aha. And the same amount of effort it goes into selling the guy that's going to pay $10,000 a month as it does to selling the guy, and maybe even more.
Yeah.
Because the guy that's paying $10,000 a month, he wants to get right to the solutions.
Yes, he does.
The guy that's paying $1,000, you have to convince them that this is going to change their life, right? Yeah. And so I thought that was like a really interesting takeaway. But like with respect to like what you got going on now, and you're combining, the speaking and everything. And are you feeling like that's just a tour? Are you building a community? Like, what do you got going on?
No, I'm looking
there?
at building a community and building this out. And what we're doing is we're starting to collaborate with people that are experts in their industry.
Oh, nice.
So whether auto industry or manufacturing or things like that, where we'll partner up and we'll build out. If you have a level of expertise, but you don't know how to build out a course or a program, we'll help you build that out, and we'll partner with you on it and blend it with our human side of business leadership, holistic leadership. But then you bring in the finer aspects of that specific industry.
Nice.
So auto dealership, I'm in talks right now with some people in regards to auto dealerships. So we can improve communication, improve culture, improve different things, but bring that to the masses across the deal and let these individuals who are experts in it, let them go be the keynote.
Yeah,
let them be the speaker. Then, every quarter, if we can, I've got 2 scheduled this year, but I plan to do it every quarter with that Breakfast of Champions. And we're going to bring that in for mental health and business and community leaders and involve pro athletes. And just as we start to bring this together, it just really, as much as I'm going on the road with this, because I want to gain some exposure out west with it.
Yep.
And sitting here and just sending it virtually is not, I want to be in people's faces. I want to be attending. I want to be meeting people. I want to be, using my network that I have out there. This just allows us the freedom, like the mindset of the freedom of knowing that I'm going to wake up in Algonquin, or I'm going to wake up in Banff, or I'm going to wake up in Jasper, and I'm going to stay there for 3 or 4 weeks. And this is where I'm going to work. And Elon Musk internet is going to keep me alive everywhere I go.
Nice.
And then plan out even our following year. Like I want to work from the Yukon in the summer of 2026.
Nice.
It's beautiful up there. I just want to go discover things that are normally just vacations for people.
Yep.
I just want it to be our life. And there's so many national and state and provincial parks that I can work from that are just unbelievable and beautiful. That why wouldn't I?
Yeah, right.
Why wouldn't I?
Well, I mean, we live in a world where you can literally do whatever you want, and so like that's what I've been really teaching people lately is that like you can do whatever you want. Like just like imagine then, and I always tell people that it's like think of the life you want to live, and then build your career out of that, because you can have it all. So if you want to work 3 days a week and make $1 million a year, it's possible.
Yes.
It's like just open up the doors. Like we're out there at Lungo Vita, like we get wrapped up in like. One course of action, which is like we need to get an actual traditional mortgage. And so what are the avenues to do that? Well, make sure you have good bottom line sales and go to a bank and get them to get you a loan. Yeah. But there are a million ways to create that.
There are so many private lenders and different other ways.
Private lending, there's membership models. There's just like, it's literally endless.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you can build whatever you want. It's like, if you want to like, the thing that I've been leaning into at Lungo Vita is like, I want to have Lungo Vita complete, high quality, like the top of the end spa, and I don't want any debt. Right?
Perfect.
And so I was like, I don't know the full solution, but I know that now that I've at least aligned with that,
target. Yeah,
that's it, right? Whereas before I was wrapped up in this like make sales, get a bank to give a loan, pay the loan off over time. I was like, fuck all that.
Yeah,
it's like it can all happen in an instant.
Yeah,
right. And so, and that takes like a great level of personal and spiritual growth to understand what that actually means.
It does to check your emotions.
Yeah.
Like we respond so much often emotionally, and really keep putting that in check and just looking at things logically, and everything works out. Really understanding that we get so caught up in bullshit that doesn't matter. It's going to work out. Something's going wrong today. Give it 48 hours and it's going to be gone.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, because I wanted to ask you before I forget. What do you think? Because this is something that I've coached people on for so long, is that it's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't even want to say my answer. I'm going to ask you, what is it you think finally led you to truly, because you believe that.
Yes.
You believe everything's going to be fine.
Yes.
Right? What led you to finally coming to that belief?
I've been through a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
I've been through a lot of ups and downs. I've taken risks that I probably shouldn't have. I thought that I could do it myself and didn't go out and get the mentor. And, and that costs you time, money, and effort. And I've just I just realized that with all the adversity and all the ups and downs, that every single time everything works out.
Yep.
And it really does. It may not work out to a degree that you had initially thought, but it works out to where it's supposed to. And we get so caught up in focusing on the negative of it, enjoy and bathe in the positivity of whatever level of success.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe your success was to hit the peak of the mountain, but maybe you only hit 2 base camps.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. You still succeeded and you still progressed and you still climbed.
Yeah.
And people need to find value in that.
Yeah.
That the process is the outcome is not what I care about.
Yeah.
It's the process and how we go through it and how we better ourselves while we're learning and while we're leveling up, basically.
Yeah, and like I think it's like and I think I'm going through adversity and recognizing to learning how to see the good. I think it's like a really important part, because we're so programmed to see the bad because that's how we survived. Yes. But if you start seeing the good, then you see the good in even like the worst. You know, I'll give you an example. It's like my family was selling like this family cottage, right? And I wanted to buy it. And so the family had made the decision that they didn't really want to keep it within the family. And so they kind of sold it from underneath me, kind of thing. And there was like a lot of turmoil in the family. And, you know, my wife was all pissed off and all of this stuff. But then because I didn't buy that, I had the cash free to buy Lugo Vita, right? Which was like, I went from one cottage I was going to rent out, you know, for $300 a night to a 16-acre property with 40 units, you know, and so it's like when you see, it's like everything's working out, but you can get hung up on all of the bad and just see like how your life just didn't work out, or you can see like, oh, everything is happening for the exact way it's possible, and it's because we're a part of this unconscious energy that is moving us towards like the best version of ourselves. And if you really start to believe that, it's like life becomes like pretty flowing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's very easy. And I think that, I mean, we're raised in a culture and society that focuses on negativity.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many times I'll get together with family or friends and all they do is tell me about everything that went wrong about their day. And I will literally stop them and say, tell me about the best part of your day.
Yeah, right.
What was the best thing that happened today?
Mm-hmm.
And just redirect their thoughts, because I can't be around that. Mm-hmm. I physically cannot be around people if they're just going to sit around and complain.
Yeah, right.
I just don't. We're about solutions. We're about trying to live the best life that we can. And I'm not going to sweat small things. I don't worry about the little things anymore. I really don't.
Yeah, I love that. This has been great. I mean, we could talk for hours, Ian.
Yeah.
What are some of like the best books that have kind of like, you know, moved you over the edge, you know, like the new levels of awareness? I told you I was reading Cody's book right now. That's great. Even though I'm not really interested in buying businesses, I just like Cody.
Yeah.
So I wanted to support her and buy the book. But any books that kind of like really move the needle for you?
Yeah. I mean, I've basically, one of my favorite books that I've always read was a book, and I still go back to it. It's called Winning.
Oh yeah.
By Jack Welch.
Yeah.
As simple as that is, it just, when it comes down to business and the way he was treating his people and how his philosophy on how to develop people, that really helped me with my human side as well. Nice. Even though he's very cyborg and CEO, he still has that. He really does. He recognizes the human component to things. So that was always a very, very impactful. John Maxwell's got some books that were his leadership books were terrific. And then Mark Roberge, is he the guy from HubSpot?
I don't know.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
It's a great book that he's got in regards to sales and how he took HubSpot from 100 employees to where it is.
Yeah, it's huge.
And then moved on. Like, it's just unbelievable.
Love that. Yeah, I always loved like documentary style books. You know? I remember reading the Steve Jobs biography and just like being like so like in awe of like what one person was able to create in like one lifetime, you know? And I was like, holy cow, like, man, it was kind of like in some ways a little bit negative, because I was like, man, I'm like nowhere near where this guy is. But I mean, we're all on our own path. And so
when you look at things that help with consciousness and awareness, I mean, obviously Dispenza, I saw a lot of things. His Rewired was, I think every human being should take in the guy, a rewired version of that and just really take it to heart and see if they can try to apply it at their own pace. Yeah. And I think it would change a lot of people's outlook.
Yeah. And what about like just like your major like ahas, you know, like what would be like, you know, your top big shifts in the last you know, from kind of like the time you hit stop policing to like where you are now? Like, what do you think are like the few things that are just like, you know?
surrounding yourself with the right people. I believe that the number one thing is making sure that you have a partner in life that actually gels with what you want and where you're going. There's a local business guy who's was an incredible friend and mentor, and he said something to me that stuck with me for years, and it just stuck in my side. And he kept saying, Ian, you do everything excellent 80% of the time. He said, but it's the extra 20% some of the time that you're not doing that isn't pushing you over the edge. So it always stuck with me. And then fast forward, my wife and I get together, and I always joke that she's like Tom Cruise on Minority Report, where she's just mixing, where he's realigning everything. That's what she does with my thoughts and my brain. She would just everything. And that's exactly how we work. I'll come up with some ideas, and she just massages it and puts it all in line. And I've never had the exponential personal or professional growth that I've had in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Ever. And it's so simple. It really is. It's so simple. It's removing the distractions. The clarity from the no alcohol is top 3 for the rest of my life. Best decisions I've ever made in my life. And then just fitness. We're constantly at the gym. It starts with your body. Get in shape. Get yourself rolling. And you don't have to become a fitness model. No. But just get off your ass and get moving. And watch what you're putting in your mouth. And step away from seconds, and don't eat desserts, and just do a little bit of exercise. You don't need to. It's just about. And
you've been able to basically kind of like heal from your back injury in some ways. Like you had like this chronic back pain, and now you're like you're walking pretty normal to me. You're walking better than I am today.
I have good days. I have bad days. I mean, as you get older, there's parts in your body that you didn't realize you had that ache.
Yeah, sure.
But really, it comes down to managing it. Yeah. And ironically enough, my wife is a Toronto firefighter. She has the exact same back injury. She got into an injury in a truck accident up in Toronto. And she has the exact same back injury that's removing her from that industry, which is why we're on the path that we're on. Yeah. So, but I think it just comes down to your mind. I fully believe that it's mind over matter. So many people let their body dictate what goes on, and that just isn't the case. Yeah. Our mind and our consciousness maintains everything.
Yeah. Right on, man. So, great stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you kind of put together with your travels and And are you on socials now or no? Or?
Oh yeah. We're on Facebook. Okay. You can find us on Facebook. Our website thinktank.ca, and it's think with a Y. It's thinktank.ca. That's where all of our business, our courses, our holistic, our fitness from Ascend, everything is there. We'll be doing YouTube as well. There's a lot of things that are going to be coming out in regards to following our path as we go. We're very fortunate with the network of people that seem to have interest in us, and what the hell.
Nice.
So if we can get that going, maybe I'll jump on chat and figure out how to grow my YouTube.
Well, there you go. I mean, you can follow it's working, man.
Is it working?
I've grown 15 subscribers in 10 days, which I mean, like, if you look at how many subscribers I have, it's like it's a huge percentage. And so I think the most important thing that I'm getting from it is like, it's just keeping me in the field of thinking about growth and making things better. It's like, I've never spent the time that I'm spending on like video preparation and idea preparation and making sure the audience stays engaged. And it's not like I'm trying to trick the audience. I believe that the work that I've done that's transformed my life can help anybody. Yes. And I'm actually doing them a disservice by having a shitty video.
And people don't realize the effort that goes into this.
No, they don't.
What goes into this right here. People have no idea.
I had no clue. Until 10 days ago, until I was like, holy shit, we are not even remotely spending enough time with respect to planning and promotion and all of it. And so if anything, like I was actually going to make a video about this, is like, if anything, I think everyone should use ChatGPT to achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve, because all it does is it keeps you in the field. Like, so it's like, if you want to get into shape, ask ChatGPT every day what you should do. And at least you're constantly thinking about, okay, I want to do this today. And it keeps you in the field. And so like my mind now, it's because I've opened the door to like all these potentials.
Yes.
Now all I'm seeing is all the potential. Whereas when I wasn't in the field every single day, I wasn't seeing any of it. Yeah. Right. And so it's been super powerful. I'm going to keep doing it. And then there's like some doubt in there of like, am I diluting my brand by doing this or whatever? I'm like, fuck it. No, I'm just going to do it.
Fuck that. Do whatever makes you feel good.
And I'm enjoying it.
And the right people will follow.
That's it.
And
I'm having fun. And Zach's learning more too about like how to become like a better editor and everything. It's been all.
No, I think you guys are putting out a quality product. You really are. Like when I watch it and you see video, I've been on a few podcasts already. and the qualities. I'm sitting on a Zoom. I'm not sitting in their studio.
Yeah.
You're sitting on a Zoom, and even that, it's something as simple as the microphone, man.
Yeah.
I've been through I don't know how many microphones trying to get the right sound in my room.
That's it. Yeah.
Finally, we got it. So
yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Yeah, so let's do it again for sure. After you kind of next time you're gonna, maybe next year when you come back, we'll set it up again. But
circle around.
It's great. It's great meeting you and great conversation.
Likewise, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Cool,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool, dude.